Hello, this is Tracy Z with NoteInvestor.com, and I'm here with some great news. Seller financing notes increased in 2013, but a lot of us were wondering, what about 2014? So today we're going to talk a little bit about the numbers, including the statistics for 2013. We're going to look at the top 10 producing states. We're going to look at the preliminary numbers for note creation in 2014. And then you're going to get access to the full report by Advanced Seller Data Services as a PDF download, so you can look at all the data yourself. So great news. As we mentioned, seller financing increases. In 2012, it increased 15% over 2011. And in 2013, it increased 7.5%. So not the same whopping number as 2012 over 2011, but still very respectable. And Scott Arpan, president of Advanced Seller Data Services, that was so kind to provide this analysis, gave this commentary. He said, overall, note creation continues to climb past levels we've not seen for 10 years. 2013 saw a 7.5% increase in notes created over 2012. This is a more realistic and sustainable growth rate for the foreseeable future. And here's a little look at the chart. You can see that the statistics were first position or wrap seller carryback loan. So what's a seller carryback loan? Well, that's where the property owner sold the property and allowed the buyer to make payments to them instead of requiring the buyer to go out and get a bank loan. So it's called owner financing, seller carrybacks, installment sales. There's several types of terminology that are used. And this statistic tracking was for loan balances $30,000 or greater. So you can see there on the screen the number of transactions that were seller carry for the counties that were part of this study are on the left-hand side. So that blue line you can see shows that in 2006, note creation for the seller carrybacks was right around 100,000. And then it dropped to lower numbers in 2007, 8, 9 during all that wonderful real estate crash. And then seller financing became a great alternative as the banks were withdrawing from the market. And we see the notes increase in 2010, 11, 12, and 13. Now the orange line that's going down, that's actually the percentage of paper originated by sellers who created 2 or more notes in the same year. So we can see we've got sellers creating multiple notes in 1 year. That number's going down. Overall note creation's going up, but more and more it's just an individual seller that carried back 1 note on a property. And this is really more, I've been in this business since the late 80s, and I think these numbers, we haven't seen some of these kind of numbers since back then. And the number of sellers carrying back multiple notes is probably more indicative of what it was back then. We saw a lot of rehabbers and property investors that were carrying back additional notes, but that number seems to be continuing to go down while the overall numbers are going up. I always like looking at the top 10 states. I guess I'm a numbers geek. I think it's fun to look at how everything plays out. And the old 80-20 rule certainly applies here, where 80% of the results come from 20% of the effect or the effort. We've got 10 states that made up 63% of note creation. So I guess that's technically what a 63-20 rule. So 20% of the states made up 63% of the note creation. And if you want to see the full state by state, that is in the PDF download. It is underneath this video if you're viewing it on our site at NoteInvestor.com. If you're viewing this on YouTube, you can go to NoteInvestor.com and it's a free download. We don't even make you give us your email or anything. You just can visit there and download the PDF. So let's look at the top 10 states. Texas wins again, same as last year. 21.5% of the new seller carryback notes were happening in Texas, followed by California at 9.9%, Florida at 8.9%, Arizona at 4.3%, North Carolina came in number 5 at 3.9%, followed by Georgia at 3.7%, Washington State 3.6%, Ohio at 3%, Oregon 2.4%, and Tennessee at 2.2%. And if you download the full report, you'll see that all the states had production, but they sort of trickled off down from there. I had done some research. I went back and pulled a study from 1996, so that's been a few years back. And there, the top 10 states, it really is a very similar makeup. I mean, there's a little bit of switching between, position 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 in there, but you really see the same states time and time again being top producers. So if you're to think about your marketing, where the most notes are being created, where's the most seller financing, this kind of gives you an indication of that. Of course, again, all states have some production, but depending on the state you live in, you might have more production, or you might want to start marketing to neighboring states as well. So what about 2014? Well, in 2014, the Dodd-Frank Act went into effect. And this created regulation on seller financing. And we won't go into all of that here. There's definitely links below the video for more information on the Dodd-Frank Act and some of that analysis. But what we're going to talk about here today is, did the Dodd-Frank Act, or does it appear the Dodd-Frank Act is impacting seller carryback note production? So Scott over at Advanced Seller Data Services was kind enough to run us some preliminary numbers for 2014. So these numbers are through or to May 1st of this year compared to that same time frame of last year. So January 10th, 2013 to May 1st, 2013 compared to January 10th, 2014 to May 1st, 2014. So it's really more useful if we compare the exact same time frame, because note production does fluctuate by region depending on the time of year. So we can see that there hasn't been much change in the number of people creating additional notes. You can see the numbers there, and the overall analysis is that 4% of sellers who originated a note after the new regulation took effect created 4 or more notes within a 12-month period. That is slightly down from 4.5% of sellers carrying notes in the same period of 2013. So there could be a slight change. We see that the number of people taking back notes 4 or more a year, that's never been a huge percentage of the market, and maybe it's going down a little bit, but again, overall, the note volume is holding steady and actually expected to increase again for 2014. So what do you do with all this great information and statistics? Well, putting it all in action. First off, let's thank Scott Arpan of NoteSellerList.com for providing this very useful data. Their company actually sells lists of seller carryback notes, so you can market directly to the note holders. That's one method for finding real estate notes to earn a referral fee or to invest in for yourself or through self-directed retirement funds. We encourage you to read some of the funder interviews on NoteInvestor.com. Scott Arpan's company is one of the service providers listed in our directory, along with different investors that are open to buying seller carryback notes. And we have interviews with them as well. If you're looking for direct mail marketing tips, if you want to put all of this into action, we have quite a few of those on our website and in our Finding Cash Flow Notes training. We provide actual copies of postcards and their performance rates along with letters. We are very proud of one of the letters that has a double than average return or response rate. So we've got a letter that an average response rate in direct mail might be 1%, and it consistently pulls over 2% response rate. So direct mail is definitely numbers game. If you're going to get into it, that's something that you'll want to study up and learn tips of the trade from different people who've been in the industry using it effectively. So I want to thank you very much for joining me today. Again, don't forget to download the full PDF, and shout out to Scott Arpan for providing and sharing all this great information. Thanks a lot, and we look forward to working with you at NoteInvestor.com.